New York Giants are already being written off as one of the worst teams in the entire NFL. But I think everyone making those opinions are just being lazy and saying, hey, here's a team who's been bad the past few years. Let's just say they're going to be bad again. And yeah, they did just have the third pick in the NFL draft. But I think when you really dive deep into this roster and who they picked up this offseason, barring injuries, they're actually going to make the playoffs and surprise a lot of people. Now, I know what you're saying. The Giants have the hardest schedule in the entire NFL. How's that going to work? Well, let's jump into their 2025 NFL schedule so I can show you why I believe the New York Giants are going to make the NFL playoffs. In week 1, you have the Washington Commanders. Now, everyone knows the Commanders are good. They just went to the NFC Championship game. But I think the New York Giants are going to surprise a lot of people and take this game with a win early on. Obviously, we saw last season the Commanders kind of came out of nowhere. Jaden Daniels is a great quarterback in the NFL, but I think some of the things they did last season were a little bit unorthodox. They were great on fourth down, getting almost every single fourth down attempt of the season. Now, some would call that Jaden Daniels' rushing ability, and some people like myself would say, hey, that's something that's not repeatable. Also, Russell Wilson beat Jaden Daniels with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys just traded away Micah Parsons and are putting more of an emphasis on the future. So, I think this Cowboys roster might be the worst in the NFL on the defensive side of the ball. Now, I think they're going to have an incredible offense, but I think the pass rush of the New York Giants is going to help tone that down a little bit. And I see the Giants starting the season out 2-0. But in week 3, here's one of your hardest matchups of the season, the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I personally think that the Chiefs are going to be without Rashee Rice in this game. And it's because of that I'm actually going to surprise people and have the Giants winning this football game. The Chiefs were very fortunate in a lot of games last season, winning a ton of low-score games and then inching their way into the Super Bowl. And then they got exposed in the Super Bowl for having a terrible offensive line. Now, that offensive line may have improved a little bit with the addition of Josh Simmons, but when you look at this Giants defensive line, I think they're going to be more than capable of handling the Chiefs. And with Rashee Rice being out, I don't think Mahomes really has that impressive of weapons to throw to outside of Xavier Worthy. And it's because of that I see Russell Wilson and the Giants beating the Kansas City Chiefs, as Russell Wilson has shown he's able to keep up with Patrick Mahomes with both the Denver Broncos and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Next up in week 4, you have the Chargers, and I'm actually going to have this down as a loss for the New York Giants. Vibes are going to be high. You've won 3 games in a row. This Chargers team is a good football team, though, and they're going to be dominant in the run game. Now, if Dexter Lawrence can stop this Chargers run game, I do personally believe that the Giants can win this football game. But it's hard for me to really sit here and say they're going to start the season out 4-0. So I think this is going to be one of those one-score games that they somehow lose because Justin Herbert's a really good quarterback. Next up, we have week 5, and in week 5, we're going to have the New Orleans Saints. And I think the Saints are the worst team in football. Maybe them or the Colts, but it's really hard for me to say anyone other than the Saints are the worst team in the NFL. I really think they're trying to draft a top-tier quarterback next season because there's no way they're going to be very good with Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shook, especially with the lack of offensive weapons on that team. Tyrann Mathieu also just retired, so there's no way they're going to be very good. Next up in week 6, we're going to have the Philadelphia Eagles. We're coming up against the Eagles, starting the season out 4-1. And I think we get humbled a little bit here, right? I think the Giants are going to come in with vibes high, and this Eagles team is just going to be so good that they're not able to beat them in this game, right? I think that's all there is simply to say to it. You've won a lot of football games. You've played a lot of hard football. So have the Eagles up to this point, but I think you do lose this one. Next up, you're going up against the Denver Broncos, and I think I'd love to say that Russell Wilson is going to have his revenge game, and he just might. But I think the Denver Broncos actually match up really, really well with the New York Giants. PS2, Pat Surtain, is going to help take away Malik Neighbors, who's the Giants' lone offensive star, right? And then the defensive side of the ball, yes, the Giants are great. Their pass rush is really good, but the Broncos get the ball out of their hand quick. Now, they do have limited firepower on the offensive side of the ball, so I think this is going to be a really close game that could go either way, but I am going to have the Broncos winning it as well. Now you go back and play the Eagles next week, and I do think the Giants are going to win this game. We see the NFC East beats up on each other a lot. The Eagles did lose some firepower on the defensive side of the ball, and I do think they're going to be touchable this season, and I don't think Saquon Barkley has as good of a game against them as he probably does in their first matchup of this season. Next up, we're going to have the San Francisco 49ers And I personally believe the 49ers have lost too much firepower to continue to be great in the NFL. And it's because of that I don't think Brock Purdy is going to be able to carry them in the same way he has in the past. Yes, you still have Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Trent Williams, but what are the odds of all of these guys staying healthy for the entirety of the year, right? And I don't think that's very high. So that's why I'm ultimately going to say the New York Giants take care of business in this game too. Okay, now you're facing a Bears team. You're 6-3 at this point in the season, and I think you're going to take care of the Bears as well, putting yourself at 7-3. Now, I think the Bears are going to be improved under Ben Johnson, but I personally believe that this pass rush is going to help Caleb Williams kind of suppress himself down to who he was last season, even though I think he is going to play much better this season. And it's because of that I have them beating the Chicago Bears. Next up, you're going up against the Green Bay Packers. It's a team that I'm not as high on as some people are. Yes, they just got Micah Parsons, but I don't believe that Jordan Love is an incredible quarterback, and I think when there's pressure in his face, he gets a little bit worse, and I also think he's too much of a big play hunter. And it's because of that I do think he's going to struggle in this game, and this game could go either way, but I am going to have the Packers winning this game. Next up, in Week 12, we're going to have the Detroit Lions, and the Detroit Lions are the Detroit Lions, right? A culture has been set there. They're a great football team. You have Jahmyr Gibbs, who I think is the 1A, 1B running back in the NFL with Saquon Barkley. And it's because of this that I do think the Lions are going to take care of business as well. Now, are the Lions going to be as good without Ben Johnson? I don't personally think so, but only time will tell. And maybe we get to this point in the season where we're like, yes, the Giants are going to win this football game. So at this point in the season, you've lost a few, but you're way ahead of schedule. In fact, you have more wins than you've been predicted to have all season up to this point. And you add another one. In Week 13, you have the Patriots, who you beat up on in the preseason already. And yes, it's just preseason football, but I think that game showed a lot about the depth on both of these teams. And I do believe that the Giants starters are better than the Patriots starters. As much as I love Mike Vrabel as a head coach, I just think that the New York Giants are a better football team up to this point. So give me the win there for the Giants too. Now you're going into your bye week at the record of 8-5. And next up, you're going to have the Washington Commanders. Now, this game is going to go 50-50. Honestly, it just depends on injuries at this point in the season. But I think if both teams stay healthy, the Giants beat the Commanders once again. And people are going to be shocked at that. But I truly believe the Giants match up pretty well against them this season. Next up in Week 16, we're going to have the Minnesota Vikings. And I do believe that they are going to lose this football game. I think the Vikings are one of the most underrated teams in the entire NFL. They won 14 games last season, lost their quarterback, but I don't think J.J. McCarthy is that much of a downgrade, and I do think he's going to be very much improved by this point in the season. Now, could this pass rush get to him and he struggle? Yes, absolutely, especially considering this Vikings offensive line isn't very good. But I just think this Vikings team is really, really good, and I see them winning this game. Next up in Week 17, you're going to have the Raiders, Russell Wilson versus Geno Smith, Russell Wilson versus Pete Carroll once again, getting his revenge, and I think he does that. I don't think the Raiders are a talented football team. Yes, you have Ashton Genty, Max Crosby, and Brock Bowers, but outside of that, you don't have much at all. So as much of a culture setter as Pete Carroll is, I do believe the Giants are the better football team in this game. Finally, Week 18, you have the Cowboys. Like I said, this Cowboys defense is going to be terrible, and that's why I have the Giants taking care of business, finishing the season 11-6 and shocking the entire NFL world, making the playoffs with Russell Wilson. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed, and see you.